What's up, Pirates? Wraith here with Awaken TCG, and today we're getting into fundamentals. Let's do it. The first topic we're going to talk about is card knowledge. So this one seems, very basic. There is definitely some fundamentals that are more specific and intermediate and even advanced. I feel like this one goes without saying. If you want to do well in this game, you really have to understand the card pool of what is in the meta, and sometimes even cards that you might not expect be in the meta. People can tech in and use them against you. So it's very, very important to just get familiar with all the cards, and that can come through you reading individually every card. That can come through you just playing and getting used to it. So like every one of these cards has a different effect, has potential triggers, and so once you learn the card pool of what is currently in the meta, your knowledge pool becomes greater, and then the things you start looking out for also evolves with that knowledge. And so I think at a basic standpoint, just getting familiar with every type of card in this game, events, characters, leader effects, everything that you might see when you're playing this game, especially competitively. I think that's a great place to start, especially for newer players. If you're struggling to, win games, etc. If you don't know everything that is currently in the meta, obviously the sim is a great resource for that, because you can literally look up any single card in the entire game, even for sets ahead of us like OP09, etc. This is a great tool to get used to and reading every card that you could potentially learn. So we definitely have to, maybe I could even provide a guide of where, like, okay, these are the decks in the meta, these are potential deck lists to look out for, etc. These are key cards. Maybe that would be a good idea. But for now, I think just, starting at a base point, your starting spot, get familiar with every card in this game, especially what's in the meta. That's really going to level you up. I think at the most beginner level is probably going to be the most effective way to just get better right away, learning what your opponent can do, learning what you can do. And then you can even take it a step further. As soon as you have that knowledge, then you can go into specifically what deck you're playing, into the specific matchup that you're playing against. Then this is a whole new ball game of more knowledge to learn, that we can definitely get deeper with in another video. But you can have knowledge from general cards and just general knowledge of every deck, and then you can have matchup specific knowledge that can go a long way. That is going to be the first bit of advice, and let's get into number two. All right, so the second topic we are going to talk about is make sure to play your characters after you attack. And so here I have a situation set up on why that's really important. I see especially a lot of newer players make this mistake time and time again, and I'll even forget to do this at certain points. But there's two big things. Let's go ahead and go over the first one. So the first situation is okay. So let's say you start your turn. You go ahead and drop a character, right? Let's say you use the effect, whatever. That's fine. But now it's your time to attack. So you played your character, and now it's your time to attack. So this is a situation that can happen. There's not many yellow decks currently in the meta, other than BY Luffy, but you'll see a Katakuri and an NL here and there. But especially at locals, where these decks are definitely a lot more prevalent, this is a situation that is very real. So let's say you played your character, now it's time for you to swing. Me on Katakuri, I want to take this life. Let's see. Oh, we have an Onami, and if we read the trigger, it says we KO up to one of your opponent's 5 cost or lower characters. And what do we have here? We have a 5 cost, so we can go ahead and actually kill that the turn it was played. So now we're stuck with no board and in a very disadvantageous position, right? So I think that's one of the critical things for triggers to be so useful, is just your opponent not playing around them correctly. So as the BY player here in this situation, you should know that, oh, I'm playing a Katakuri. The potential for these triggers to pop up are very, very relevant. And I think the second biggest thing that we can actually learn from this 100%ly is the lack of information you give your opponent. So let's go ahead and, okay, so we're going to end turn here. Let's play something on the Kata's side. Let's bring it back to the Kata's turn. Let's swing here, and then we'll give it back over. Okay, so now as the BY here, if you give your opponent knowledge of what you're going to do with your Dawn, that gives them a better idea on what to do on their turn as far as countering goes. So like if you just swing a 5K here, let's say you swing a 5K here, and your opponent doesn't know what you are going to do with the rest of your Dawn. This is more so for decks that actually have KO potential. But let's say, oh, on 10 Dawn, potentially this Black Yellow Luffy player would love to do his 10 Don combo with a 8 cost Moria, 2 for the leader effect, etc. But the Katakuri has to think of these situations, right? Like, okay, what is he going to do? Do I need to counter out of this? Um, so if he sees this 5K swing, you know, you just have a lack of information. It's like, oh, if he did his combo, this would be an 11K swing. So he's not too sure what to do, right? It gives your opponent less information to go off of when they're countering, which is an advantage for you because they could potentially counter in the wrong order, and then you can see a mistake that they make countering, and then you can punish that mistake from them countering, right? So we can go ahead and counter that, and then it's like, oh, I didn't actually have my Moria play because I'm at 1 life, so instead, I'm gonna go ahead and play this Luffy, and I'm gonna kill your cracker regardless, right? So now you wasted a card countering it, and it still died, right? And that's a very real situation, especially when you're playing against top meta decks like Lucci, for example, that just love to KO your board. A lot of the times they'll swing into your units, so you can give them cards, and then they're gonna end up killing your board anyway. So it's definitely something to look out for. Um, always play your characters after you attack. Do your turn after you attack. Formulate a plan. This is a great segue to get into our last topic. Is definitely formulate your entire turn before you take action. So now we are in the same situation here. We are at 6 Dawn on BY Luffy, as you can see here on the screen. We have to think of a certain play, right? So like before anything, what is our purpose of this turn? What are we trying to accomplish here? So um, for starters, the way this deck works here, obviously we want to get ourselves down to 0 life. And the best way to do that is actually to play this power up Luffy, right? It trashes the life, you draw a card. So you're not actually losing any cards. You're not losing any resources, and you get this amazing body on the board. So if that is our play for this turn, let's say this is our play, that's going to cost 5 Don, which is going to leave us with 1 Don left over. So that means we know we can use that 1 Don to do 2 things. We can either use this Garp Searcher to search a unit, and then we're swinging 5, or we can use that to attach to our leader. So that would what would determine that obviously is if we need a baby, but our hand is looking pretty set up here, so we can be a little more aggressive. And so let's go ahead and swing with that extra Don first and leave up 5 Don. So he's going to take no trigger, and then we're allowed to freely play our unit, use our effect, and pass turn over to the Katakuri, which allows us to be safe from any triggers. Our opponent was ambiguous on having any type of knowledge to like wonder if they should counter or not. And so it basically puts you at a better position always if you swing after you or you swing before you play your characters, just because it gives your opponent a lot less knowledge. If you play out your whole turn and then you swing 6K, they know that's you're the last thing you're going to do. So they can just give you a 2K counter, and then that's the turn, right? So definitely always formulate a plan, and we'll even do one more. So the Katakuri here, obviously I definitely just made this deck to have a bunch of triggers so I can set up that last topic. But anyways here, we probably want to just build board, I think. This deck runs 10 mom, so you'd probably just want to build board, not swing into them, have them mill their own life. And so you'd probably just want to play a 7 mom and pass, to be honest. But that is the name of the game, right? The more you get better at really understanding how you want to play out your whole turn before taking any action is definitely going to level up your game. I think the best thing to do is always practice this, because they do say practice makes perfect, and it's very true. If you play sloppy, especially during testing, and you're not active with your testing, that's how you're going to play. You're going to see a line, right? You're going to see a play, you're going to do it right away, and then realize, oh, wait, I probably should have done this first, or I probably should have done that first. This should have came second. I don't. What was I thinking? Yeah, this is the correct play in maybe another game, but right now I had to do this first, or right. So it's just like a lot of the times you gotta make sure that autopilot is not always running. And while it is good sometimes to keep the flow of the game, you always want to be aware of your turn from start to finish before you ever use a Don, before you ever swing an attack. You always want to make sure that you know what you're doing, because another good tip, real quick, a little side tip, is just you can always be very fluid with how you play your turn. And what I mean by that is a lot of the times you can have a turn planned to go out this way, but then something your opponent does may mean there is a better option for you to continue and finish that turn. So it's definitely always being aware of how your opponent is responding to what you are doing during your turn. That can always change things on your end. But that is going to be the three topics that I talk about today. It's card game knowledge, matchup knowledge, etc. Definitely, always you always want to swing before you play your units, and then number three, you want to make sure that you formulate a plan before you take action. Formulate a plan for your entire turn before you take action. And so I hope you guys really enjoyed these three quick tips. I think these are some core fundamentals that can really level up your game, especially at any level, because you could be a really great player, but maybe certain things go over your head, and it's a good refresher as well. Anyways, guys, thank you guys so much. I do have a article that just released on Patreon with a lot more topics. I don't go too into depth with the fundamentals, but I do have a whole article of just a ton of fundamentals that can spark this idea in your mind and realize, wow, I wasn't thinking about that. You know what? Let me actually improve on that. So there's a long list of 10 plus core fundamentals that you can check out on my Patreon. Down in the link below, it'll be the first link in the description. Thank you guys so much for supporting me always, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.